Are your ulcerative colitis symptoms proving difficult to manage? Tremfya guselkumab can help you manage the cycle of UC symptoms. At 1 year, many patients taking Tremfya achieved clinical remission, and some patients also achieved endoscopic remission. Individual results may vary. Tremfya is a prescription medicine used to treat adults with moderately to severely active ulcerative colitis. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and TB. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Ask your doctor if Tremfya can help you manage the cycle of UC symptoms. Call 1-800-526-7736 to learn more, or visit tremfyaradio.com.
Empower.
Claire is practicing her breathing for her upcoming yoga retreat in Bali. Has she ever done yoga before? No. But Claire worked with Empower on her savings and investment strategy. She got good at money, so she can be a little bad. Empower. Invest well, live a little. Join our 19 million customers today at empower.com.
Past performance is not indicative of future returns. Investing involves risks. You may lose money. Advisory services are provided for a fee by Empower Advisor Group, LLC, EAG, a registered investment advisor with the Securities and Exchange Commission. Om Namaste.
Paraday presenta Ojos con Alergia y Picazón contra el jardinero. Y el ganador es Paraday Extra Fuerte. Para aliviar la picazón de los ojos por alergia, actúa más rápido y supera Claritin y Flonase aún a las 24 horas. Paraday, adelante.
It's really cool. Bonjour, hello, welcome to the Rugby Rugby podcast, your one-stop shop for all things French rugby, top 14, Pro League, Nationale, European Cups, the brilliant towns, cities, bars, pubs, restaurants, and everything else in between. I'm Richard, and I'm joined as ever by a man who has been indulging himself in some of those aforementioned town, cities, and plenty of rugby over the last few days. Rob, you look like you've got a bit of a glow from your trip to the Catalan area.
Yeah, I mean, well, this week the Rugby Rugby podcast is coming with more towns, bars, and restaurants. It was gloriously hot. I think it was quite good weather over here over the weekend, but Friday night and Saturday were baking hot. In Friday night in Beziers and then Saturday in Perpignan. As was Monday. Sunday was a little bit grey, but yeah.
In true Rosbiff style, did you feel yourself kinking up to a nice hue, or did you kind of get involved in the
about 7:30 p.m. in the stands in Beziers? I was sat there thinking, I haven't got sun cream on, and I feel like I'm burning, which was not something you get at 7:30 ever in the UK. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, it's bold on the first day as well. Go straight in with the burn. Well, do you want to go straight in? Give us a run through of your itinerary. We've obviously done a couple of these trips now. You are very much going solo on this occasion. So talk us through your ventures.
First one genuinely solo. Which has its positives and negatives in terms of the logistics, because it's a bit easier to get yourself around, but also less of the cost to split with people. So I had a very agreeable flight from Luton on Friday lunchtime out to Beziers. Beziers then was 7 p.m. kickoff local time, so I didn't actually have that much time in Beziers because I wanted to get there early, soak up the atmosphere, check out the ground, etc. So that was Beziers at home to Nevers on Friday night. Stayed behind after the game quite late, and then I had a relatively early start the next day, so didn't kick on into town. But next morning was a car share, which is the first time I've ever done that.
Your blah blah car.
Blah blah car, because for some reason, so normally you can get a train from Beziers to Perpignan, and it's not long. And it's not expensive, but for whatever reason, this Saturday seemed to be the one the one day where that wasn't happening. And so the only option I had was either a 6 a.m. bus or a car share, which was a Citroen C3, which is not a big car, 3-door. I had an enormous man called Muhammad Ali sat next to me for a lot of it. Stanislas and his girlfriend were crammed into the front. Decent smell of fags. No English spoken. I did catch them say "Pat Lux," and I was like, "Yeah, you're telling me, pal." Like, I also got dropped off, not quite at my drop-off station, but I was basically like a motorway junction. Ended up having to walk a little bit and then getting an Uber into Perpignan town. I didn't have tickets to the Perpignan game. They were full sell-out. I went to get the ground and they were like, "Nope, there's going to be no resales." Had a bit of a panic text to you, Richard. As
if I was going to be able to sort.
I thought you might offer some words of wisdom, but you were busy focusing on some excellent glove work for Morden Wanderers first 11, no doubt. And actually in the market, I had a beer and a coffee, and I thought, right, I feel like I can now speak to someone. I turned to some people next to me. And I said, "Do you know anyone?" in French, because my French, one of the tests out of French that I got in during the weekend. Do you know anyone that's got a ticket? And literally, like, his mate was like, "Yeah, he's got a spare." And it was like, "Okay, yeah, can I have it?" It's like, "Yeah, €60." It's like, "Yeah, sure, I've got cash here. Take my money." And he airdropped me a photo of a ticket, which was a season ticket holder that kind of couldn't make it or whatever. They're actually a few interesting guys. One of them is the chair of a Fédéral 2 team in Paris and runs a sports shirt company. One is some sort of magnate in anchovies, and I think they are a principal sponsor of Perpignan. Like, I think there was an anchovy sign in the ground. I think that's the account that now follows Rosby's Rugby on Instagram. I need to double check that, but because I didn't see them afterwards. I was kind of with one bloke, which unfortunately was the bloke that spoke the worst English. But I did go to Perpignan v Clermont, which is a very dramatic game. And then, the afternoon in the Bodega watching, well, it was a bit of a weird one. And then dinner in Perpignan. Sunday I went to Prades, which you actually flagged as a place to go, which I found a fascinating trip. They were playing their kind of last 16 game. So they finished 5th in their league. So the way it works
is Fédéral 2. So this is same level as the guy with his anchovy mate.
Yeah, same. They have like a rugby shirt company, Francois. But yeah, so for context, London Welsh level 5 in the UK. I've got a mate at work who plays for Old Haberdashers, which is level 6, and they are the highest. They claim to be the highest team in the country that don't train. So it's pretty good standard. But the way there's like 8 pools across Fédéral 2 across the country. First and second go straight into this round, but there was a barrage between all of the third to 6th place teams across those pools against another random pool to then get into the last 16, and then it filters up to a champion of France at Fédéral 2 level. And actually, Sarlat were champion of France for level 3 for Fédéral 3 last year. So, and they won their league, so they're obviously doing pretty well. But Prades got a 10-point win, taking them into the second leg away at Sarlat next weekend.
Where's Sarlat?
Périgord country. So their league had teams' names in it that had like Brive and Clermont in the team names. Périgord, I think, was another one. So quite decent yards from the Pyrenees.
That's a long way.
Yeah,
that is a long way. So sort of like the equivalent of like the London Irish wild geese or whatever they're called, sort of weird associated feeder teams like the Brive.
Yeah, I assume it's something like that. But
nice.
I think GOPCC or Prades or Conflent Canigou, whatever you want to call them, I think they kind of have a little bit of because you found them, someone recommended them as like best grounds in France, and it was like Stade Aimé Giral, Perpignan's ground, and actually he's like an ultra for Perpignan, that guy.
Yeah.
And he also said, and of course, Prades at the foot of the Canigou. So the Canigou is like a sacred mountain for the Catalan people. Conflans is like a historical area of that Catalan Pyrenees area. So I think like JOPCC are like have a little bit more of like a cultural, like cultural historical relevance. Like they had quite a big crowd. Like the guy at work was like, yeah, we don't get drums and flares at our home games, like a little bit different. But I wonder if they had a bit more of a following because of they kind of like how London Welsh get quite a lot of people. I don't know if it's kind of that sort of thing. Maybe it kind of felt like it might be. That was fascinating though. I think that was almost my favorite trip of the favorite game day of the three almost, because it was just so eye-opening. It was also brilliant to see that even in level 6, you are fully hounding the ref. You are making as much noise when the opposition kicker is lining up his kick. You are setting off flares. You're singing. You're drumming. The massive second row is having a dart after the game with his beers. It was just every great. Kind of, and also just clearly a massive part of the community. They were so great. They were really friendly. They knew who I was straight away because we kind of chatted to them beforehand via Instagram. So yeah, shout out to Prades. And I would love to go back. I didn't quite get the money shot with the Canigou in the background because there's a little bit of cloud cover, but an amazing setting in the middle of the Pyrenees to have this ground. It was really cool.
Good excuse to head back. You talk about that,
and this is the hat for because I tried to do something linked. This is the hat that we got.
The hat is quite sharp.
Yeah, I'm not a massive trucker hat fan, but this is warming on me, and it's a really bloody cool logo.
Talking of the cultural significance, so I was doing a little bit of research on Prades as a place, and I was struggling a bit. But apparently, Prades plays a role in the history of the Catalan flag, La Senyera, I think it's called, the
which you can see here.
Stripes.
Yeah.
Yes, if you zoom in just enough, you can see there. So apparently, and these names aren't made up, and this is a fair old while ago. So legend has it around 860 AD that a leader called his name was Wilfred the Hairy. All right, I'm not making that up. Wilfred the Hairy's father was assassinated on the orders of his arch enemy, who's a guy called it's Charles. Guess what his moniker was against
Charles
Wilfred the Hairy?
Charles the Shaven.
Charles the Bald.
Was it?
Yeah. Charles the Bald, apparently. So Wilfred the Hairy, Nuncy.
Wilfred the Hairy is a way cooler name. Imagine being Charles the Bald.
Charles the Bald, not Charles de Gaulle. Very different player. Yeah. And apparently there was some sort of duel between the assassin of Mr. Hairy's dad and Charles the Bald. Wilfred the Hairy and the assassin. Wilfred the Hairy killed this fella, but did have some stains of blood on him. So he wiped them across the surface of his golden shield. And according to this website, which is called PO Life, which I believe is Pyrenees Oriental, the region you've just been in, it says, et voila, the Catalan coat of arms and flag, La Senyera, was born. And Wilfred the Hairy
seems to make sense to me.
Was from Prades. So, some very relevant ancient history. I'm going to quiz you a little bit, quick fire on your trip then. Best thing you ate?
I had duck breast and chips at Beziers with a béarnaise sauce and a little bit of Dijon mustard for the chips, and it was with the béarnaise sauce was just brilliant, and it was like the proper duck fat. One of my mates thought it was steak, like it was that kind of levels of
nice.
Yeah,
decadence.
Beziers in the ground. That's cool.
Oh, fab. Best thing you drank?
I had a Catalan Coast red, which was basically the only nice wine I had, but I had that on Saturday evening, and they only had it by the bottle, which I had to myself, which I'm not sure was a great idea given how much I'd drunk and how much sun I'd seen. But it was a Carignan Syrah Grenache mix, I want to say.
Delightful. Best bit of kit, rugby-wise?
I saw.
That you saw?
I mean, Clermont v Perpignan is the home of great kits, isn't it? Really, as a fixture. There was one, Beziers stash is relatively average, but there was a really, really cool, like early sponsorship days of top 14 retro gear that I would love to have got my hands on. That, and I love, as you know, Richard, I love a round neck jumper. I was really, really wanting to get my hands on a JOP CC round neck. They had some great stash. I'd say their stash this year is a little bit underwhelming given some previous iterations of some good old kits knocking around in the fans.
Nice. Best sightseeing thing. So best thing you saw that wasn't rugby or food related. Any? I don't know.
Well, I did go to Carcassonne on Monday for my flight back.
Yeah. The
old town is incredible, but it's just so tacky. Like, it's just so, I hate those like old towns when they're just all the shops are just tat shops. So I'm not going to give it that. I kind of perhaps didn't quite maximize my time there, but Les Halles Vauban in Perpignan, the kind of covered halls, was really cool. But I didn't actually eat anything there. I was more focused on getting a ticket and trying to sort out Instagram and stuff like that. But yeah, nice. I would love to go back there and eat.
Spend your time on Instagram rather than getting stuck in I filmed some predictions, which was going to be really cool. It's like, here I am in the Les Halles Vauban, and I only realised halfway through after editing it that there was no sound for the second half of it, and I was like, and by then I was like, well, I've wasted this. I'm not going to kind of continue to flog a dead horse. And anyone who might be listening to your tales and thinking, "Oh, I fancy that trip." One recommendation, word of advice for your visit to Perpignan and Beziers.
Get to the ground early. Both of them. I don't think we generally haven't been that good at that. But the welcome of the players at Perpignan is renowned, and it was the full shebang. It's so many people there for an hour and a half before the game. Flares, drums, music. There's like the fan drums, and then there's also a band playing alongside it. There's like a loudspeaker. There's a MC. Like, it was, yeah. There's the mascot, nice. Which I had to ask what it was. Like, is it a rabbit or is it a horse? And the guy was like, no, it's a Anna. And I was like, donkey? And he like stuck it into Google Translate. It's like, yeah, donkey. It's the another Catalan icon, emblem, nice. Cultural thing.
Very good. We might as well blast straight into top 14, and we might as well start there then. Perpignan overcome at home by Clermont. I don't think either of us picked that. Looked like they were going pretty well for most of it. You had a better view than I did, so talk us through what happened to you, Sam.
Well, I did a little kind of hot take video after the game, and I got no idea how that's happened, because Perpignan were the best team. Generally, there was a little bit of indiscipline. There's quite a few yellow. They basically there was one yellow and Clermont scored 2 tries in that. There was then another yellow and Clermont scored another try within that. And I know that like the vast majority of the fans were Perpignan fans, and I know I was in the Perpignan section. But I genuinely think they were getting slightly fiddled by the ref. The speed with which he was willing to penalise Perpignan was remarkable. It was like, and it was the slightest marginal thing was always going Clermont's way. And it was bizarre, because obviously you see it go either way. Some refs kind of get completely turned around, like Zach was saying, and I was talking about the other week with La Rochelle at home. But I think it's gone the other way on this one, because it did feel like they really weren't getting the marginal calls. Perpignan played some really, really bold rugby, like loads of offloading right at the line, loads of hard angles. I would say they had about 6 or 7 times where the final pass didn't stick and it would have been a clear run-in because of like the build-up play they'd had. And that ultimately cost them. You know, Clermont stayed in the fight. Bello kicked a load of goals. Erdbejeta, who genuinely looks like he could be like playing a lads versus dads game. He looks so old. But he also looks really lithe and nimble in the flesh. It's amazing. But like visually, he looks so old and frail. It's crazy, but he played really well. And they kept in the game with the goal kicking. I was really impressed with Perpignan. I thought they played some really good rugby. Like Ekashard at 9 and McIntyre played with load of pace, really impressive. Veradame on the wing is like the size of a second row. And he had that brilliant fend, whereas a proper sit down on Alex Newsom for one of the tries, which you may have seen on Instagram. And the other bloke whose name I've forgotten now in the centre was also massive, the other Fijian lad. Not Veradame, what's his name? Down-Givulu. They played some really good rugby. Clermont weren't terrible, to be fair. Like they were all right.
Yeah, I mean, Clermont have been a little bit resurgent to an extent of late, haven't they? Like they put away Stade Francais. They probably, I know it's a funny tournament, but they probably should have beaten the Sharks in Southwest London, which is no mean feat. So yeah, I don't know, maybe some glimmers of Clermont's inching back to kind of something that we'd maybe recognise a bit more of over the last, or going back a few years, because they've certainly been lagging behind the pack for a little while now.
Yeah, the other because everyone else is going to be talking about it to watch this game, Baptiste Junot is real deal. He's like not like the try that he scored, which came. It's one of those ones where he just suddenly it seemed like he just suddenly had the ball and then a clear run to the line. But I watched the highlights again today just to kind of remind myself of it. And there's no way he should win that ball because there's 3 Perpignan players there and he just plucks it out the air. But also he makes it look easy, but he is rapid. He also made a couple of massive hits. Like there's obviously a load of talk about like who's going to be the next Dupont, and Le Garrec with his running lines, his passing and kicking and his flair is kind of getting a lot of headlines at the moment. But the physicality of Junot is possibly something that's quite Dupont-like. Like he made one massive hit on someone. Also shout out Xavier Chocky, Heineken Cup legend with 2 or 3 titles, was genuinely about twice the depth of the bloke that he replaced. Like coming off the bench, I was like, I saw him like warming up. I was like, is that Xavier Chocky? And then I was like, oh my God, it is. Like, you know how like Adam Jones like strutting around like for Quins? You're like, fuck me, he's enormous. He can't be a rugby player. Like Xavier Chocky is that sort of level of big
man. Junot, like France's depth at 9. I know it's not a player that's been tested at international level yet, but it seems a little bit unfair. I don't know.
Full international. He's a holder of the under-20s World Cup.
Yeah, but he didn't make his. No, they had Le Garrec, they had Luca and Le Garrec, didn't they, in the Six Nations? Yeah. Speaking of good, or pretty handy 9s, Baptiste Serran was turning it on for Toulon. I don't know if you saw back-to-back tries, crossfield kick, one to the left, Villiers picks up one to the right, just that kind of, I don't know, what's the like lackadaisical boot that you sort of so often associate with French 9s. Another guy who, a few years ago was the next big thing. If he was playing for another country, I think would probably still would be the big thing. How many caps has Thomas Williams got or something like that? Like he's that sort of he's quite Thomas Williams-esque, isn't he, in terms of can spark something from nowhere. Maybe a little bit more consistent and a little bit more a little bit less frenetic. I always like Thomas Williams, but I think there's a slight madness to the way he plays sometimes that isn't quite Serran. I mean, not a huge amount. That game obviously went to form Toulon, Lyon, albeit maybe not. It was a bit closer. Was it 6 points in it in the end? I think. Yeah,
Lyon had a really strong team out. It's quite weird. So I watched this in the ground, and I was quite looking forward to it. I've probably spoken about this before, given how from previous times when we went to Toulouse. But the way they show the rugby in France on Canal Plus is they have all the games simultaneously, and it's like Soccer Saturday, but rather than having people talking you through it, you actually go and watch the game like as stuff happens. So they'll have like the main game.
NFL Red Zone thing they do on Sky.
I don't know. I've never seen that.
They sort of hop from game to game.
Or a little bit like match of the day on the last game of the season.
Okay.
Like that's that sort of thing. So Toulon-Lyon was actually the main game. You kind of don't see all of it, but you kind of saw the back end of it because I think it was the only game still running at the end. So I caught bits of it, but I didn't catch. I mean, it looked like just the depth of Toulon bringing Ben White bigger off the bench just helped quite a bit. Also Lyon putting a strong team out away, shows that they were slightly panicking.
Yeah, 100%. And I suppose at that end of the table as well, I thought the madness of Montpellier might get a win away at Castres. Lost by 1 point at the Pierre Fabre, having led for most of the game. I don't know if you saw any of this. Like, there's some Montpellier look pretty good in Suedes.
Coley had a really bright game.
Coley,
whatever you want to call it, yeah.
Coley, Virat. He did miss a drop goal in the last 2 minutes, albeit a tricky and a slightly, dare I say, panicked drop goal, and kind of wise, a bit like, is that the right option with your 9 or one of your?
Well, he wasn't 9 at that point. So Reinhardt came on and he moved to 10. But
as in, how many match-winning drop goals has he been asked to slot before?
Yeah,
I've already seen Carbonell ham one up away at Lyon earlier in the season. Pretty good. But
so I did catch the end of that because you get like the because on the Rugby Plus you kind of switch. They knew that was getting tight. So I saw like the last 5 minutes of that game. There was one horrible injury at the back end of that as well. I think it was Babiot.
It was Babiot, the CAS captain, right? 6. Yeah, that looked awful.
Yeah.
Like a proper broken arm, you would think.
But I think, as you said, Rich, I think they're pretty much consigned to 13th, to be honest. I can't see them. They are 7 adrift with 3 games to go. So it's not undoable, but yeah.
An extra 2 points there would have made it really interesting, wouldn't it? Because they play Lyon in a couple of weeks, so that could have been getting towards shootout territory. But
the two teams above them have got to play 2 home games, I think, and they are both teams that just don't lose at home. So yeah.
You think they're done for. Anything else of note? Poe, Dustin
ran in a lot of tries,
as expected. Racing, Bayonne got their away win. We did say maybe Racing playing in Auxerre brings them into it a little bit. Fair play, Bayonne, great effort from them. Tuisova, Racing, scored a try in the first minute of his debut, which is handy. Debut? I'm pretty sure. I don't think he'd played before.
Yeah, I think you're right, actually.
Because it was the injury was
World Cup
against England, wasn't it?
Yeah.
This game, so for me, I've got my notes here, this had one of the best tries of the season, one of the worst tries of the season, and I've got one of the best worst tries of the season in here, which was so the best try of the season. I can't remember who scored it for Bayonne.
Martok,
full coast to coast. It was unbelievable
from under their own sticks.
Yeah, I think they were behind as well at that point. So it's just they've just absolutely balled it upfield. The worst try of the season was Racing get a turnover on their own line. I don't know if you saw this, and they sort of just like ship it left, and the ball kind of bounces between.
Camel Shat just flings it at Circalisi's shoulder,
and it's just, and Machino just picks the ball up and moves maybe 11 centimeters over the try line, just full fast. But my actual favourite was Gail Fiku's try in the first half, which was a brilliant bit of work down the left wing. Inside, but before that, Gibert's gone for it was Gibert, I think, at 10, wasn't it?
Yeah, at 10, yeah.
he's gone for the crossfield kick off the left boot, and it's one of the worst crossfield kicks you'll ever see. It's gone about 15 meters backwards. Sort of thing, if it was Finn Russell, you might be like, oh, there was some sort of genius ploy in that, but he's just absolutely shanked it, and somehow they've got in. So yeah, that for me is the worst try of the season thus far. But yeah, Bayonne, fair play.
Have you seen the red card?
No, I haven't.
So Sanconi, second row for Racing, got sent off on the 15th minute. And if there's one team you don't want to lose the second row against, it's probably Bayonne, because they're so good at mauling. Not that their tries were really anything to do with mauling. Really, they scored some wonder tries, but it is so harsh. Like it's a clear out, and he's cleared him out, and he's like brushed the back of Guidicelli's head. But it's one of those ones where Guidicelli is like in over the ball. He's arguably come in slightly to the side and should be penalised anyway. And Sanconi I don't know how he has to clear him out. Otherwise, like his team are just going to concede a turnover. And I don't know where else he can go. Like he's not that reckless. He doesn't make it's not like compared to the Jack Walker one against Toulouse. It's nothing like that. Like it's so hard. And that's on the 15th minute. Like that's going to have quite a big impact over the course of the game, losing a second row. So,
yeah. No, I missed that. I saw like the extended. I must have drifted off. Must have been laughing.
They didn't show the incident live. They showed the discussion and the replay on the highlights I saw anyway. But yeah, Bayonne very good generally, and Lopez kicked his goals.
Shock! What a boy!
Yeah,
and then got a couple of minutes left on the top 14. Toulouse kind of ran away with it against Stade Francais in the end.
Yes. Yeah. I kind of thought initially that Stade weren't going to turn up. Then it looked like they were going to turn up. And then the second half was just non-contest sort of stuff. Yeah, there was... Stade weren't great, to be honest. It looked like an amazing atmosphere for a Sunday night. Like there was crowd surfing. Yeah. Miafu was class off the bench. Peter Aki was class.
I thought I know they didn't start the full noise 15, but they had most of them on the bench, and it's Toulouse just looks so formidable at the moment.
Capelwatson as well, actually playing well for Toulouse. Yeah. He's not done much for them, but the setup for the Paul Grau try was class, beautiful.
Acceleration is wild.
The half-time pundits on this were Thierry Dussoir and Sébastien Chabal.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Not that I could hear it. I just had to listen to noisy Leeds fans that were singing songs about Catalan dragons. And they had a naff kickoff, and I realised online that it was an F1 presenter on Canal Plus, so the equivalent of like Simon Lazenby doing the naff kickoff sort of thing that they seem to love in France. But yeah.
And then I think the only one we haven't touched on, which I think you said you saw most of actually, was Bordeaux put away. Well, Damien Penaud inspired Bordeaux put away La Rochelle pretty comfortably.
Yeah, it was quite like the La Rochelle Leinster game in that it felt quite close for like the first 20 minutes, and then in hindsight you realise that they were kind of just clinging on. They were utterly atrocious at times. Antoine Hastoy is a man bereft of any confidence. Like he genuinely, it was almost I know he scored a try, but it genuinely felt like a surprise when he didn't make a mistake. It got to that level. Like we're talking like missed kicks in front of the post, albeit 40 minutes out. We're talking knock-ons, forward passes, like missing the ball sort of stuff. Just some kicking it dead, like all that, everything you can do badly in a game, he basically managed to do. And some of the shambolic stuff, like you may have seen it on social media, the Aldrit chasing back, Penaud diving in. But like, because Aldrit got pulled off straight away after that. I don't know whether he got injured, but
didn't look great.
Yeah.
One of
but
the
also,
things
like Jules Favre is also running back and sees Penaud go past him, and you can see on the replay, like his lips don't move, like he's not shouting, Greg, or anything like that.
I saw on Twitter someone saying that apparently the crowd remained silent, so it's almost as if to not give away the fact that he was being like snuck up on from behind, which I thought was a nice touch. But I mean, also like he did that, but he's just looked ridiculous all over the park. BL Beret as well scored an absolute worldie, didn't he? Like pretty much length
forward pass on that. Clear forward pass on the final pass.
Moafano, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Wangs it.
Momentum rule.
Yeah, but Bordeaux, well, like Toulouse, march on. Looking ahead, I mean, we've still got a couple
of injuries coming out of that for Bordeaux. So Deporter and who was the other one? Can't remember now. Someone also very good. But yeah, Deporter went off injured, and potentially that could be season done. It looked pretty innocuous. Oh, Buros, who I thought was brilliant, also came off injured. So a couple of their star-studded backline.
I think La Rochelle, Botti is done for the season as well after that.
Dante's injury did not look good. Their injury list, it came up on screen, is horrific. And moving ahead to next, they are in sixth. They play seventh place side Po.
Yeah.
Who they did beat away earlier on in the season. But they are there for the taking. It'll be an interesting to see how Po go.
Definitely.
Because they will be confident after, they've just thumped Oyonnax. They're looking up. If they sneak that, if they beat La Rochelle, I reckon that puts them in the driving seat for that sixth barrage spot.
Definitely the game of the round coming up. And then certainly one of the other matches of note, the Sunday night match, Stade Bordeaux.
Yeah, that could be, given how both teams played at the weekend, if Stade don't win that, I think they could be out the top two, which is quite incredible to think. Because if you look at the other games, I mean, Bordeaux have got Oyonnax at home on the last game of the season, whereas Stade are at home to Toulon, and Stade have got to go to Cass next weekend. So, yeah, they could be in. They could be out of the top two, which seems unfathomable because they've been top two for pretty much all the season.
I think you said last week there, it's a fair point. I'd kind of given the benefit of the doubt, but maybe just stalling, running out of puff a little bit. They're good. I mean, no better way to reverse that, right, than turning over Bordeaux.
Yeah, I don't think they know who their best 10 is, which is never a great position to actually be in. I think they want it to be Segons, but Henry has actually largely been okay, but then Segons' kicking is slightly better than Henry's. So, yeah.
Nice.
And then I guess the other one in terms of the top six battle that could have a team really not in a good place. So we mentioned La Rochelle could drop out of the top six. Racing could also drop out of the top six. So they go to Lyon, who we know have a brilliant home record, but also we know that Racing don't match up well against big, enormous packs, and that is what Lyon have. So again, Racing haven't got the nicest of run-ins. So they could slide out the top six. So Perpignan, it was all kind of doom and gloom. The guys I was chatting to in the market beforehand were kind of like, well, we need to win 3 of the last 4 to get in the top 6. Despite that loss, because some of the other teams have also lost, they're not entirely out of it. They go to Bayonne. Bayonne need that win really still to kind of really make sure that they're not going to get relegated, and they've got a proud home record. So it's still a lot to play for. Kind of, it did feel like it all evened itself out and we all kind of had a bit of clarity all of a sudden. But actually, the only real clarity we've kind of got now is the fact that Montpellier are probably going to be 13th and Oyonnax are down. Like, that's pretty much it. And Toulouse are going to be in the top 2. But other than that,
it seems a fair vague summation.
I think we're pretty comfortable. Toulon will get a home semi in the or a home barrage game. I'm pretty comfortable about that. and I don't want to really make too many predictions about anything else.
But we'll talk.
Especially given how bad our Pro Day 2 predictions were.
Well, speaking of which, we'll move on to the very, very pointy end of the Pro Day season in just a second. Right, Pro Day 2. There is, after last weekend or last Friday, there is one match less of the mammoth regular season. I mean, where to start? Because it's just really engrossing at kind of every little chunk of the table. At the top last week, arguably, I mean, possibly not for the team that lost, but for the team that won, the most significant result was Fortress Van, and Zach Farrance told us last week, difficult place to win. Brive had to win to keep their top 6 alive, and they did it. They turned them over.
Yeah. We kind of previewed that. I can't remember if it was on the podcast or in the Instagram thing, but yeah, there was a chance there for one of the teams in that 6th, 7th, and 8th going away. If one of them won, that was going to put them in the driving seat. And I did not think that team was going to be Brive. I thought it was going to be probably Mont-de-Marsan away at Montauban, but Mont-de-Marsan lost, Nevers lost at Beziers, and Brive won, which is, I can't get my head around that. They're finding a bit of form though. They have churned out a few wins, and
and they're just a powerful side. They've got some really some quality players. I almost feel like, I mean, not doubting the quality of the top 2 in particular, Van just lost, Van and Provence. I reckon the team that Montpellier would want to go to least is probably Brive.
Oh yeah, definitely, because they came down last year, so they still have a lot of top 14 players, but they've also I mean, like Sam Johnson, Ross Moriarty, Philip van der Merwe, or Marcel van der Merwe, sorry. There's a few internationals there,
and
in major nations,
as well, just to illustrate on what a knife edge that, and how fine a swing that was. So Brive get one over Van. Montauban, we backed them. They just shade to keep their season alive at the bottom end over Mont-de-Marsan. But Beziers, obviously, you are correspondent in the ground. They win by 4 points against Nevers, but that's last play of the game.
Yeah, clock in the red. It was, I don't want to say an undeserved win, but it didn't feel, I felt quite sorry for Nevers because they played really well. And I went into that game thinking with high hopes for running rugby from Beziers, and I found them relatively underwhelming. But the atmosphere in that, so I haven't quite seen the final number. I think it was in the 11,000s, which is more than the capacity of the StoneX, which is phenomenal. Like, I kind of had to keep reminding myself that it was second division because the stadium is so impressive.
It looks amazing. It looks like
it's old. It is old. Like it's tired.
It looks a bit like Toman Park with the two massive stands along the sides and then kind of tapering off a bit. But I mean, from the clip of you slowly sunburning that you sent, like you looked a pretty long way up.
Yeah, I mean, but I didn't feel far away. Like it's very, very steep. But it's properly steep, but you don't feel far away. Funny you should say Toman Park, because I bumped into at the airport a few Irish lads who were Beziers second row, John Madigan, former Munsterman, his brother and his cousins. And I think they said they were looking at a photo and said, it looks like Toman Park. So yeah, you're you're in tune with the people that know best, Rich.
With the Munster boys.
It's just like the amount of people there to remind yourself that that's a second division game, and the quality of the rugby, the execution of skill was still so high. Samuel Marquez is a brilliant player. I know he's quite old now, and he probably won't get a shot at top 14, especially if Beziers don't make it. But he is such a good player, and it was not. I guess it's good that he had a kind of good run at the World Cup with Portugal. Costas thought he went off injured, like stretched it off. That was a real shame. Didn't get to see much of him. Ilya scoring tries for fun. I think he's like second top try scorer in the league, or second or third.
Amazing.
But just the noise. Like I've been to see Caldy away at Ealing, and in the season that they beat them in the home fixture, and I've seen Caldy at home to Doncaster, and then we've been to Richmond a few times, and it's chalk and cheese. Like going to Richmond is much more like going to Prades than it is Beziers. Like going to Beziers it's almost the closest of the grounds that I've been to is somewhere like almost like Welford Road. Like it really is like a proper. It's a tired old stadium. They do feel like a kind of this was once great. The whole aura of the place feels a bit like that. But there was just so many people, and it was so noisy. Gabin Law was the real spark for Beziers. I've seen a lot of him in the highlights. He looks great. He slotted a drop goal, made it look very comfortable from about 40 metres. A mere 20 shorter than his longest drop goal of the season. But yeah, the finish at the end with that last-minute try, clock in the red, secures them a home barrage. Yeah, phenomenal. And like with the sun staying over the stadium with that shell dome shape, it felt really, really special and atmospheric. Like it was really cool.
Yeah, I'd like to get down there at some point, I must say. I suppose I wouldn't mind, rather than sort of dwelling on what's happened too much, because we're now into the last proper round, well, not proper round, but the last round of the regular season. The only other call-outs for me are, we've already touched on Montauban getting a win. Rouen beats Soyer-Angoulême, which we thought would be the case. Dax are in the top six. We knew that before. Aurillac shout out in the big dead rubber turned over Valence Roman in a like 42 what was it 41 36.
Yeah,
a serious effort. And then the only other, just because you mentioned the noise, so the other ground that has been getting some big attendances is Grenoble in the last few weeks, and I think they had 13,000 plus again for their game against Colomiers. And there was a try, I don't know if you saw the try that was scored by Georgie Javakia,
yeah. Running him in at the moment.
Unreal. But the break from, I can't remember the inside centre, but the break and the offload is, I think they had two trios and a Quiu this week.
Really? The two double trio?
I'm pretty sure it was double trio. Just one of those, like, not quite the same as that famous Bill Matter offload, but like that sort of slightly over the head vibe that doesn't quite. It's just so cool, and it sounded seriously loud, like so loud.
That game, like 27-10, looks pretty comfortable for, especially when you kind of know that Grenoble are on form. But it was 15-10 with like 8 minutes to go. I wonder if it was a case of just their power. You know, when you get a really powerful side, but they look like a team playing with confidence and like energy, and True just looks like a player that is just happy to be playing and looking really confident. Like the fact that he's trying to offload and charging through the middle, he looks a good player.
Right, so 1 week left.
Also, the other game we haven't mentioned, Beziers lost at home.
Yes, and that is...
And didn't get a losing bonus point. So, that on the face of it looks like, Beziers, I think one time fill-in for you, Reese, said Biarritz trying their best to get relegated. But actually, having watched the highlights back, that was not the case. It was 20 points, 16 to Provence. Biarritz are, I think it was about 10 minutes to go. Biarritz are less than 5 metres from the Provence try line. There is an almighty knock-on from one of the forwards, and it goes straight to Provence's reserve Fijian centre, who runs 97 metres to score a try in what would have been a genuine 14-point swing. If they get that, if the forward catches it, that's 23-20, and they get a win. Whereas actually, that was enough to see them off and deny them a losing bonus point as well. So they actually played pretty well. A few scrum pens, Hawass, Bailey Searle kicking his goals. But ultimately, it was a loss where the two teams below them won. And they can't go down, but they can go in the access match.
Is that because they won? They can't be caught on games won? Is that
correct? Yeah,
right.
So
fine.
that win against Agen confirmed that they couldn't go down, I think.
Because Rouen have only won 9. Got you. Okay. So state of play. So the kind of top 5 is done. So the 2 interesting bits really are the bottom of the table. So Biarritz, Montauban, Rouen. So looking next week, Biarritz have got to go to
Brive, don't they? Yeah.
Oof. Wow. So Brive also, that's the game, isn't it? Because Brive are now in 6th. So Brive have got it in their gift to stay to get 6th. That last place. Who's with them? Mont-de-Marsan and Nevers. Who's playing who?
Mont-de-Marsan have Rouen at home. That's 5 points.
You think, Rouen are probably done then. And then, so we're talking barrage, aren't we? Not board, access match rather.
Which is Montauban away at Aurillac.
I
didn't think Aurillac were going to win because they didn't get away wins when they had something to play for. I wonder if it will be more of a free-flowing game, and Montauban, who don't score a lot of points, might be all right because they might actually have some errors to pounce upon.
Yeah,
because shackles are off from Aurillac, maybe.
I think guns ahead. I think I'm going Montauban for 14th. Biarritz in the access match.
I think I agree with you. What's the points difference? 3. So it's not like a losing bonus will, edge them above. They do need to win against Aurillac.
Yeah.
Which
They're
is
also pretty much level on points difference as well. So, not for that. Well, they say there's 3.
So if they win
between them, so that's
Biarritz,
not going to matter.
If they win and Biarritz get a losing bonus, the chances are they will overtake them on points difference. I reckon.
Yeah.
Unless there is literally only 1 point in both games.
That's tense. And then
I don't think Biarritz are going to get a losing bonus point away at Brive, though.
No, I think
because they've got the power to match Biarritz's power game.
Yeah, I think Biarritz might be in the access match. Nevers, Dax already sewn up. They can't get a home draw, can they?
They can if Grenoble lose to Provence away. And they beat Nevers away.
I'm looking at the wrong part of the table. Yeah, there's only 2 points, aren't there, between... Well, actually, there's only 3 points between them and Beziers as well.
They could finish 3rd, yeah. In theory.
Oh, God. Nevers,
I think Grenoble win that as well.
I think Grenoble will win that. I think Provence will rest a few lads there, won't they?
They rested people last week, though. We didn't think they were going to get the win because they rested a few blokes. So,
but I feel like they can't they? It makes no difference.
Yeah, but then they won't play for another week. So, do you play? It's home game, final game of the season. They'll go full strength because that's such a big thing. I think if you looked at the teams and the way that teams were marketing last home game of the season in Pro D2 last week. I think that's actually such a big thing in French rugby that they don't want to lose that. Like, and the way they reacted at Beziers for that last minute try, I think that is a big thing.
Yeah, but they've also got a home match to come, and
they get a week off.
What if I don't know? What if Tom Francis goes down?
Jimmy Gopper pings a hammy.
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, should we? We'll leave it there.
I mean, we'll stop talking about it because we've proven last week that we are useless at. I wouldn't say not just us. I would say not just us. Like, I don't think anyone is calling that set of results. No one is picking that in a. I think anyone in the world is picking that out and in an accumulator as like a set of results.
No, not a chance. We've been all right today. We've pulled a few out of the. Mate, I was 8 from 8 a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, I think that was particularly tricky. And it's business end, isn't it? So people are actually not just rolling over and sending the kind of
sending the foreign lads.
String, the foreign lads, as Zach told us last week. Before we wrap up and go on to a couple of closing Petit-Fours, we spoke about the access match with Nationale there. The Nationale final is this weekend, taking place in Chambéry, and it is Stade Nice versus Narbonne, who overcame Carcassonne at the weekend in extra time. I don't know if you saw that.
They were 20 points to 8 down as well.
Yeah.
A couple of tries for Peter Beetham.
Yeah, and that was another big attempt. That was, I think, 9,000.
I've got it written down somewhere. Yeah, it was fucking loads.
Yeah, it's just awesome. So I've seen they've got a load of coaches organised to get to Chambéry. I haven't seen too much of what Nice are saying.
Chambéry is like near like Lyon and Grenoble, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of skiing area.
9,072 spectators. It looked crazy.
Yeah,
it looked utterly
mad.
It looked like as mental as like it looked on social media like how Beziers felt, like just loads and loads of people, sunshine, noise.
Good fun. It was good fun. There's something to be said for some of this summery rugby stuff.
It was a record attendance. The record attendance they've had or highest since 2006.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow, that's some going. And I assume if it follows the Pro D2 format, if they were to lose, or does the losing team in Nationale host the Pro D13? Because that's what happens in the
access match. It must do. It must do. Yeah. So the formats generally match each other.
So, I mean, it's a big club either way, but Biarritz have to go to Narbonne. That is going to be absolutely bouncing, isn't it?
Yeah, 2003, that's an absolute belting game.
Yeah. Mate, some of the old boys are going to be, relinquishing some scraps that have been put to bed over the last 2 decades.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll keep an eye out on that one. And obviously next week we'll have a review of that and find out what the hell's going on with that access match too.
Winner goes up automatically. They will take the place of, we think, Rouen, and then we think an access match between the loser and possibly Biarritz. Possibly Montauban.
Right, should we wrap up there on Pro Day?
Yeah.
And come back with some closing Petit-Fours and then Digestifs. Right, Rob, my Petit-Fours list this week. I haven't got masses, but one thing has been taking place as we have been recording this. Do you know what it is?
No.
So, obviously, for our UK-based listeners, the many hundreds and thousands, big football match tonight, Tottenham v Man City.
I was going to say that, but I thought that was completely the wrong end of the stick.
But the big football match mentioned some weeks ago on one of the first podcasts was Girondin Bordeaux Legends versus, I can't remember what they're called now. It's like the club, like the Sporting Club de Paris or something. But essentially it was like Dugarry, Zinedine Zidane. You know what I've actually got it loaded up here, so I want to see. There's a clip of Zidane dribbling. I say dribbling like down the wing, but like keepy upping down the left wing.
Oh my god!
So I think we had, who else did we have playing? I think we had Dimitri Yashvili, Bizente Lizarazu. Yeah, just class. It took place. Chaban Delmas looks absolutely buzzing. Full house. I think it was the 100th anniversary of
centenary of Chaban Delmas.
Stade Chaban Delmas. Fabian Barthez. Yeah, just class. So yeah, it happened is what I wanted to say. The only other thing I saw which was doing the rounds, which was hilarious, was at the Rouen game on Saturday. There was a couple having a date behind the posts. Did you see that?
No.
They've got like a set meal and and like a bottle of wine on a table just beyond where the players are like doing their stretches in the dead ball area. Which is, yeah, class.
Oh, how have I missed that? Talking of romance, at Prades on Sunday, I think I witnessed some teenage heartbreak. There was a young girl and a young boy having whispering into each other's ears, and then kind of next thing I knew, this girl was walking past me, tears and like holding back the tears.
Oh no!
But yeah, it was nice to see that kind of level of real, like 1960s high school TV, American movie sort of level of heartbreak sort of going on in the back of the stadium.
The emotion of a big barrage game in Federal will do that.
Yeah. Probably the lines of "Leave me alone. I'm trying to watch my heroes take on Salat."
Anything else on the Petit-Fours list from you?
I've got a bit of a mix and match. Manu Tuolangi revealed in an interview with the Times last week that he's never been to Bayonne, which is quite rogue from him.
Yeah,
and B, quite rogue that Bayonne, given the level of intensity of medical examinations in French rugby, have not presumably seen him in the flesh for a player with his medical record. I think it's so rogue from both sides.
It is rogue. All I'd say to that is, and we've bigged up Bayonne as a place quite a few times. You could be doing a lot worse than accidentally landing up in Bayonne.
Yeah, I'm more okay with it from his side. I think it's Bayonne's business operations that need a little bit of a look. And talking of Bayonne, I've just noticed that this post is actually from 3rd of May, so I might be a bit late on this. It was a photo by Maxime Machinet of some kids covered in mud in Bayonne shirts, and it turns out it's a post about his little boy playing in Bayonne juniors, and it's this picture sums up this is translated by Instagram, so it could be wrong. This picture sums up everything I love about this sport and brings back so many great memories. When I'm asked if I'm happy that my big man does rugby, I say that I would have been just as happy that he plays another sport. Yes, he needs to do sport. But what makes me happy about this is he knows the values of this sport: courage, camaraderie, solidarity, humility, selflessness, and envy, especially when he does this time. That's a weird translation. Not that we don't find them in other sports, but rugby is a sport I know, and even at professional level, these are values that we need to find and find. There's more stuff that hasn't been translated, but I saw that after my large bottle of red on to myself on Saturday night. I got quite emotional, but it was lovely stuff, and it's a really cool, like, old school mud, like, head to toe, like they've dived into a puddle sort of thing.
I've got to say, mate, I think I like the sound of the image. I think I might need a bottle of red before before I appreciate the full kind of emotive nature of that. It just sounded like a really ropey AI generated translation. But
well, I was touched by it. Talking of kids and being drunk, the Argent players looked like what they were having was a social. It turned out it was the first birthday party for Ben Volavola's kid, which apparently then turned into a piss up with about 20 Argent players, which I thought was fantastic. Bordeaux obviously played La Rochelle this weekend. There was some footage knocking around of a game from 2 years ago between the two teams, which Nicolas Deporter getting his head shaved because he used to have very long hair. That was kind of and that was his first ever pro match against La Rochelle. So quite cool. The other one, Stade Langonais from Langon, and I haven't worked out where that was. They have become the champions de France for Nationale 2, which means they will be a Nationale 1 next year. But they were also the champions de France for Fédéral 1. So they went through the whole nationwide cross-pool barrage and won that last year, and they've gone straight into Nationale 2 and won that. Nice. So back-to-back promotions, back-to-back titles, which is quite impressive. Presumably, it must be cash. Someone's getting some big cash there.
Excellent. Fair play.
But yeah, well done to them. So there's still a lot of the lower league stuff. There's a lot of Fédéral 1, Fédéral 2, Fédéral 3, presumably still going on, and a lot of good content from Rugby Amateur as always, including a coach asleep in the aisle of a bus journey, which I've also enjoyed.
Excellent. The last bits for me are one. I think they're knocking down the whole ground, but they're knocking down a stand at Montauban. The bulldozers are in the Tribune d'Honneur, which maybe you sat in.
No, I was in Tribune de Face.
Well, there's some sort of serious operation going on at Montauban.
Right.
The only other thing I was going to say is, do just have a look if you haven't already on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, whatever, at the top tries from both the top 14 and Pro Day this week, because there are some it's just suns out, everyone's booting off, and the quality of tries seems to have been off the scale. So one for your coffee break for sure.
The top 14 was particularly tough. We collectively / me, we opted for Bayonne as the best try.
I think that's fair. It was pretty outstanding.
Mainly because the Bordeaux one was a forward pass at the end. It was between those two, and I just couldn't give it because it was just so far forward.
Nice. If you haven't done so already, do check out Rob's footage of his trip to Beziers, Perpignan, with a little dip into Carcassonne, and of course our new favourite team, Prades.
Boys.
Some great, some great footage and some wicked games and some awesome fans. So do have a look. But otherwise, we done.
Yeah, that's all on at Rosbys Rugby on all of the social media outlets, whichever one is your social media outlet of choice.
Perfect. That's been Rob. I've been Richard. We've been the Rosbys Rugby podcast. You can catch us on all the aforementioned channels Rob has been through there. In the meantime, au revoir.
Au revoir.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
O'Reilly. Check engine light on? Take the guesswork out of your check engine light with O'Reilly Veriscan. It's free and provides a report with solutions based on over 650 million vehicle scans verified by ASE certified master technicians. And if you need help, we can recommend a shop for you. Ask for O'Reilly Veriscan today.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.